Just 20 minutes shy of 7 o'clock on the Now Morning Show, and we're continuing our conversation about the collaboration with the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago. Joining us in studio is Gabriella Wyke, artist and photographer, definitely with a powerful message and story. Good morning, Gabriella.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming, and thank you for loaning us your art for the week, because this is such a powerful message. But before we get into that, let's learn a little bit about you, the artist. What brought you to where you are today?
Well, I have always been an artist. I've always been interested in creating from a very young age. I started more in the traditional arts like painting, sculpture, and drawing. But it was only until 2010 when I actually migrated with my family to Canada. I took this photography class, and the teacher, he actually prompted my parents to buy me my first camera.
Oh.
And that prompted me to actually study photography at the tertiary level. And now I am a freelance photographer, but also a practicing artist.
That's amazing. And I can see just from the look on your face, it still sort of has you in some state of awe that this is what has happened.
For sure.
Tell me something, what do you prefer? I mean, we know that you love photography, but you did mention that there were some other modes of art that you were invested in. So do you find the balance between the both, or do you just prefer the photography?
So I think it's a matter of phases. I don't just do visual art, but I'm also a musician. I also used to dance back in the day. So I believe that I am an all-around artist. And my art kind of takes shape in different forms over the years. And now my focus just happens to be photography. So I do believe that there's a season for everything, and right now, it's definitely photography.
It definitely is, and of course, we see your photography has such a powerful message. Before we get into that, though, one of the things you mentioned is migrating. Would you say that being exposed to all these different cultures has contributed to where you are today as an artist?
Most definitely. I think it has had one of the most, effective moves on my life, because when you travel and you interact with different people from different places who have different experiences, it definitely impacts the way that you see the world and definitely the way that I make work.
And some of your work actually demonstrates the fact that you've had this cross-continental travel and you've been able to showcase something which one would assume is dear to your heart, which is women.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Her Voice.
So Her Voice is a passion project of mine that I began when I returned home from Atlanta. That was, of course, during the pandemic, but a little bit after. It was around the time that Andrea Barrett and Ashanti Riley were murdered, and there were a series of protests happening across the country. And of course, as a woman living in Trinidad and Tobago, I felt very moved. I felt like the entire nation was mourning. And I had a pull, I would say the Holy Spirit pulled me to go to that place where these protests were happening, because I felt like, there was something that I had to say on the topic, and what better way than to capture what was actually happening.
Definitely. And in fact, as you mentioned that, let's start with the artwork and the one that's behind you, which if I'm not mistaken, would have been from that time. What is the name of this piece here?
That piece is named Her Body. So, of course, it's an image of a protester who would have been there at peaceful protests. And I would say this is one of the most daring images that I've ever taken. I didn't expect to see this person, but I thought that the way that she was dressed and also the way that she put herself out there to spread a message that was so timely and so important, I thought it was very brave of her. And so I too wanted to capture that moment, because photography has a way of archiving what has happened in history. And I believe this is something that should definitely be remembered.
And speaking about archiving things that have happened in history, this next image that we see on screen is a piece of work that I would say is from another form of protest?
Yes.
What is the name of this?
The name of that one is called Her Needs.
Her Needs, okay.
So this was another protest that happened right in front of the Red House. This young lady, her name is Adiola Young, and she's actually an activist for women as well. And as you can see, in the images, she would have stated different things or different needs that the country actually, is in dire need of at this time. And so it continues along those lines of promoting the message that women have to say. Because a lot of the times what happens is that things are happening to women, but nobody asks women how they feel about it.
Yeah. Definitely some powerful pieces on set this morning that we're going to appreciate all week. Let's go to this next piece, which, let's say, lightens the mood, of course, with some color and definitely resonates with many of us of, let's say, Caribbean and Trinbagonian. What is the name of this piece?
So the name of this piece is If Woodbrook Could Talk. So I actually went on this walk that was promoted by two other photographers, Aidan Gonzalez and Corey. They both put together this event where a bunch of photographers and models, fashion enthusiasts got together, and we went on this walk around Woodbrook. And I remember seeing this house. It looked like it was colored by crayons. And I definitely think it is a symbol of Woodbrook, because when you go to Woodbrook, you see all these, I would say, historical buildings, buildings that have been around for a long time. And I believe if anybody were to see this image, they would definitely key in as to this has to be in Woodbrook.
Agreed, 100%. And as you mentioned, it looked as though it had been colored by crayons. Obviously, it would have stood out so much this morning because we have these black and white pieces before us. But the piece that's next to it is quite colorful and has a very powerful message. So let's get into this piece now. And what is the inspiration behind it?
So this is another project that I developed, I would say, very early on in my career. I was discovering or exploring the idea of ocean pollution.
Okay.
What happens to the ocean species when we litter, specifically plastic. So as you could see in the piece, she is adorned with a crown that is actually made of straws that I would have recycled, and also bottle caps and Glad wrap and a handmade net that was actually made by one of my colleagues. And it's really to promote the idea of the fact that when these fishes or these creatures see plastic in the ocean, it looks very shiny, very metallic, which catches the eye.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when they digest it, it's sometimes fatal because it's not actually food. So the name of the series is actually called Decoy.
Right. And it's definitely quite powerful as well. The serenity you see on your model's face, the fact you would have mentioned, as you just did, all the different components that went into this. And perfect, of course, as we celebrate World Earth Day today. Now, speaking about celebrations, you have also been celebrated and received quite a few awards. Tell me something. How does it feel to see that recognition come in for the work that comes from you?
I would say it's a very humbling experience. Like I said, I don't know myself if I'm not creating art. And to be recognized for the work that I've put in over the years is very humbling, and I'm very grateful because I've had the opportunity to travel and also share my work not just with Trinidad and Tobago but also with the world. So to know that I am honored, especially in my own country, is a blessing.
Something that you said which really demonstrates that blessing that you feel is when you had that interview with the Boynes Artist Award director, Chantal Boynes, and you said, if you know that art is what you were put on this earth to do, then do it without fear, which is so inspirational for many because we still have some with a train of thought of not necessarily being ready to step out and fully embrace that. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for loaning us this artwork for the week. Such a powerful message to share with the world. Before we end our conversation though, where can we get more information about you and where can we find you on social media?
Sure. So I am on Instagram and Facebook at Gifts from Gab. I also have a new studio in Diego Martin, Gifts from Gab Studios, where you can find me right on the main road. And you can also find me on my website at GabriellaWyke.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Gabriella Wyke here with us this morning. Artwork will be on set for the entire week. You don't want to miss it, and you don't want to miss what's happening after this break right here on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned.